Hey there, welcome into a Water Break Wednesday presented by Crown Royal. My name is Drew Dougherty, and Deepi Sidhu is with me as always. We're so happy to be with you. Deepi, how you been?
It's a great Wednesday, Drew. It's finally stopped raining, cats and dogs outside. So I'm just happy that there's sunshine. It's almost June, which means we're that much closer to the 2021 season. And I can't wait to answer these fan questions today.
Yes, Deepi brings it up. Send in your questions to us. We'd love to hear from you, whether you're chiming in on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever else. We want to talk with you. We also want to know from where you are watching this or chiming in. So let us know. We want to hear from you. We want to hear where you're from. Steve asks this: what do you expect to take out of OTAs? Deepi, we heard last week that and the week before, that a lot of what's going on right now, or was going on then, was just kind of like a dipping the toes in the water and communicating between the coaches, the assistants, the players, how they do things, how they run things. Because the way the O'Brien regime ran practices is probably going to be different than the way the Cully regime runs practices and does things and gets its work done. So you got some changes there, communication-wise and everything. So what I would think we will see here in the coming weeks is you got all that stuff out of the way. You've got plays to run. You've got stuff to do. You've got real football to get going. And you say real football because they're not tackling. I mean, they're playing in helmets and shorts, but they're going to start actually getting the plays that we'll see on the field in the fall together. And you'll kind of get an idea of where guys are as far as pecking orders. And then that'll get even more developed as you go into training camp. But that's kind of the brief idea of what I think is going to go down here at OTAs, Deepi.
Yeah, we always talk about free agents, how when they show up, it's like learning a new language, learning a new system. Yep. And I mean, while there are a lot of free agents this year that the Texans have signed, it's really a new year for everyone because with a new coaching staff, a new playbook, it's a new language for everyone, even for the veterans that are here. So I think in OTAs, that's really just time for everyone to get on the same page, to sort of get the verbiage right, to sort of iron out, practices and play calling and how stuff like that's going to go and just sort of get acclimated to this new system and the new playbook. So I think it's really just an adjustment period for all of our players and even for the coaches, because while some of them have worked together in the past, they haven't all worked together collectively as a cohesive unit. And, I think just seeing everybody out there on the field together, just sort of working through the newness of it all, because it's really new for everybody. It's not just new for the free agents this year.
Yeah. All the way from Amman, Jordan, checking things out today is Gary. And Gary's got 2 R's in his name, the extra R's, of course, for raging. And we got a question from Frank. And Frank asked this: what do you think of the run game? And it's obviously there's a big emphasis on it. They were not happy with the way they ran the ball, the Texans, last year, but we heard from center Justin Britt last week. They really want to establish the tempo, establish the tone, whatever T word you want to use. The Texans want to run the ball a lot better than they did last year. You saw Philip Lindsay come to the squad. You saw Mark Ingram join the team. David Johnson ended the last season on a really high note with 2 really, really excellent games, cracked the 100-yard mark, rushing, receiving yards combined in both of them, and scored, I think, 3 touchdowns in those last 3 games. So they want to run the ball better. Plus, you got Buddy Howell, Scotty Phillips, and some younger guys that might make it into the mix. But I think this offense is going to be a lot different in that regard, the way they attack in their blocking schemes. I think a very important addition as well has been the offensive line coach, James Campen. He has a long track record of success in Green Bay, and hopefully he can accentuate what positives he has in the current mix up front. And you got to remember, you've got a Pro Bowler in Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. You've got a guy 2 years ago who you took in the first round in Titus Howard out at right tackle. You still have a second rounder in Max Sharping, along with guys like Britt and Marcus Cannon and some others who came to this team in free agency via trade and so on and so forth. So getting better up front, protecting the quarterback and running the ball is a massive, massive undertaking and very big point of emphasis for the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, we heard, like you said, from Justin Britt last week that the Texans want to run the ball better. They take a lot of pride in that up front. And we have seen a lot of changes on the O-line. Lane Taylor, another guy that the Texans signed this offseason, he has worked with James Campen in the past. I'm excited about seeing some of these running backs out there, especially with the new formation of the O-line. You mentioned Philip Lindsay, and Lindsay put up 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons last year, of course. He was on his way, but then was injured early, and he sort of battled through that the whole year. But he's really young. He was trending in the right direction. I'm excited to see what a guy like what he does to the backfield, as well as Mark Ingram, who's a veteran. You got a veteran presence there. And then, of course, David Johnson. He started off the season one way, ended it quite another as the Texans started to see what he was doing well. He was catching passes out of the backfield well, but certainly they want to be able to run the ball better. And they have been able to run the ball better in the past. But I think all the changes to the O-line, all the changes to the scheme, the changes with the running backs, it certainly one would assume that things could only get better from there. And just from what we've seen in this offseason workouts, the offensive line does feel really good about where they are, about gelling and sort of coming together, because there are some veteran guys there, obviously two-time Pro Bowler Laramie Tunsil, and then Titus Howard, with your tackles. But you've got a lot of changes there in the middle. You got Max Sharping, you got Justin Britt, who's gonna take over that other spot at right guard. It's sort of all up in the air right now, but to see them come together in camp and say that things are gelling, that certainly bodes well for the run game. Of course, we'll only see once the pads come on in training camp, which I'm really excited to see once the pads come on in training camp.
Yeah, I can't wait. Joy and Alvin probably can't wait either. Neither can Cecil in Houston. Thank you for checking us out today. We got this coming from Jonathan. Jonathan asks, who are you most excited to see on the field this season? All right, I'll be boring. I'm most excited to see the quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills. I want to see what they got and see what is going on there. Can't wait to check them out. More and more I hear about Davis Mills and watch and read about Davis Mills, the more excited I get. And really the same goes for Tyrod Taylor. So let's see what you got under center there. I'm going to go with quarterbacks. Deepi, how about you?
I'm excited to see Philip Lindsay, like I mentioned. I'm also excited about the wide receivers because there have been a lot of changes in the wide receiver group. With Nico Collins drafted out of Michigan, I don't know what he's going to do in year one, but he's certainly a big-bodied wide receiver. He looks the part, and we haven't had a big wide receiver in a while. We saw Kiki QT really come into his own last year. I'm excited to see what he does this year with, a really good season under his belt under, not great circumstances. And then, of course, Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb and the rest of the guys. And the Texans signed a lot of free agent wide receivers as well. So I'm excited to see what the wide receivers bring to this game, because I feel like they can only get better from what they did last year. And you bring in Pep Hamilton with the passing game, and I'm excited to see what this offense looks like with him as well.
Catherine says, hi, Drew. So hi, Catherine. And then Daniel on YouTube has this, is Ross Blacklock getting reps at 3 technique or nose tackle? I think if you look at what the Texans do as far as how they categorize players, it's been a very concerted effort this offseason to call guys defensive linemen and linebackers and defensive backs, which to some might be kind of like, what do you do? But they want that positional, I guess, flexibility. So I think the shorter answer would be he's a defensive tackle. I don't think you're going to see him as a nose tackle per se. I think he's more of a defensive tackle in the 4-3 system. But hey, maybe he slides out a little bit from time to time and plays kind of like a traditional end. That's not going to happen too much. But I think if you had to categorize him and get specific, it's a defensive tackle, not the nose tackle. If you had to get very, very specific.
Yeah, and also I think in a 4-3, there's just not a traditional big run stopping nose tackle in the middle like we saw in the past with a traditional 3-4. So I just don't know if it translates the same way into a 4-3. I think you're right. It'll probably be a tackle, or you'll see some of the linebackers as well. You'll see some of their positions change when the rosters come out officially. They won't be linebackers anymore. They'll be defensive linemen, maybe vice versa, because you need a lot more defensive linemen in a 4-3 than you did before. So you'll just see all sorts of guys lining up there up front. But I think I would just add Ross Blacklock in the mix. I don't really think he'll be considered a nose tackle in this defense.
And on top of it all, I think the 4-3 versus 3-4 kind of becomes moot when you think, hey, 50 to 60% of the time you're in a nickel defense.
But yeah, that's a good point.
Or higher anyhow. So, and that's across the league. That's not specific to the Texans, but probably short answer, Daniel, he's a defensive tackle, not a nose tackle. Cecil, what do you expect from the offensive play calling this year? $1 zillion question. I mean, it's there. You got a new head coach. You've got Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator, but you have a passing game coordinator in Pep Hamilton, who's also the quarterback's coach. So there's going to be a lot of, wrinkles that we did not see last year added to this year's offense. So that's a great question. I have no idea. I think you're going to see the run game do a little bit better than it did last year. And I think the offensive line is probably going to perform a little bit better than it did last year. But as far as play calling and what to expect, your guess is as good as mine. I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to be like more of an expert, but there's so little information that flows out, these days in the NFL from the coaching staffs. And I just think it's going to be fun to see, and buckle up because we don't know as much as you.
Yeah. And also I think it's going to depend on the quarterback situation. And we certainly know that that's up in the air right now. What happens with the Texans under center once week 1 starts is really anyone's guess right now. So I think the play calling is going to really be dependent on who's under center, who's the quarterback for the Texans. So to your credit, Drew, it's not like the coaches are coming with us and presenting their playbook to us either, but there are a lot of question marks still when it comes to the Texans offense. And I think that whoever is the quarterback, this coaching staff is going to exploit that quarterback's strengths, whatever they may be. So, whether it's Tyrod Taylor, whether it's Deshaun Watson, whether it's Davis Mills, I think it'll be different. It'll be different for each guy. Certainly.
Yeah. Isaiah on YouTube
saying no answer, but I'm just trying to explain why we don't have an answer.
Right.
If that helps.
Sorry. Isaiah on YouTube has this. Do you think that we'll ever begin to use Wallow as a hybrid linebacker / free safety? Yeah, you might see aspects of that. He has very high marks for what he did in college as far as leadership goes, and just kind of leaping off the page at you. You see if it translates to the NFL. The Texans, they need help on defense. They need to play better than they did last year. And I think this guy can do some things. They obviously wouldn't have used a draft pick on him, but yeah, I do think there are chances that you could see him as kind of a big, kind of a box safety sometimes, sort of a line safety or safety backer, whichever feature you want to use.
Just make up all these hybrid position names.
Yeah.
Just call him a different thing every time.
Yeah,
he did play
like
safety
formation. Yeah.
Yeah, he played safety for a while, right until he got to TCU, and then that's when he made the switch to linebacker. I mean, I don't think we're going to see him line up as a safety too much, just because the Texans, they want to solidify their safety spot. Maybe once in a while here and there, you might see, linebackers sort of play box safety, like you're saying. But I mean, I wouldn't expect, especially as a rookie. I just don't see that happening right now, unless he just really shows this tremendous will to be great when he lines up in that position. But I think that the safeties are pretty much the safeties. And you brought up defensive linemen versus defensive tackles and nose tackles. The same thing with the secondary. Everyone's classified as defensive back. It's not cornerbacks and safeties anymore. So I think we'll see a little bit more of a hybrid cornerback safety situation. Don't you, Drew?
Yeah, that'd be lots of fun. Twitter is sometimes neglected when we answer these questions. So we'll get to H-Town Slugga, which he goes by at
I like how you say
H-Town. It's a cool Twitter handle. And he wants to know, are we going to the Super Bowl this year? Hey, that's the goal for every team every year. So whether it happens or not, we'll see. But that's what the Texans want to do. They want to win the Super Bowl. So sure. Let's go.
I'm ready. I'm ready whenever you are, Houston Slugga. Let's go. We're waiting. We're ready.
I'm all for going to the Super Bowl. Where's the Super Bowl this year? I'm blanking on that right now. You know that, Deepi?
It is not Vegas this year.
It's LA, Los Angeles. Yeah.
I think it's LA. Yeah. I was like, it's out west.
That sounds like fun. Los Angeles.
That sounds like fun.
If the Texans had a road game at LA, Miami, Chicago, and New York every single year, I'd be a happy man.
And Vegas.
In Vegas, yeah. There you go.
Drew's never been to Vegas. Drew could finally get to go to Vegas, right?
Yeah,
Drew?
it's not like I've tried not to. It just
every time there's a plan to go to Vegas,
prevented me from going. Yeah, I've had trips lined up that I couldn't make.
The draft. I was supposed to go to the Pro Bowl in Vegas, obviously because of COVID. That didn't happen. But maybe one of these days we'll make a work trip out to Vegas.
That's right. Well, listen, whether you're calling or whether you're watching from Amman, Jordan, from Houston, Alvin, or wherever, we're happy that you watched, and we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you sending those questions. Sorry that we couldn't get to all the questions, but our time is limited, but we do appreciate it. Deepi, good stuff as always. Thank you also to Amanda Caffey, to Tyler Marcotte for doing all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. This has been a Water Break Wednesday presented by Crown Royal, and we'll see you next time. Until then, go Texans.